My name is Shawn Tuma. I'm a cybersecurity and a data privacy attorney here in Texas, and I do work for clients all over the country. I originally got started in this area back in 1998 when I had the dream of being the Y2K legal expert of the world. And unfortunately that did not go quite as planned, but thank God we didn't have all the issues to deal with. But what happened is that got me in this space, and it got me engaged in cyber and cybersecurity law, which was very different back then. And over the years it's progressed quite a bit, and I've had to do quite a bit of adapting and changing. And still probably will continue to do a lot of adapting and changing, because what we do as attorneys has to fit and mold with the nature of cybersecurity in general, which is continuously evolving.
You spoke on cybersecurity law today. What do you hope was the biggest takeaway from your session?
The biggest takeaway that I hope business leaders take from this is there is a lot of fear and fear-mongering out here in the world, and the most important thing we can remember is there is hope, and most of the risks that businesses face in general, and most of the risks that the businesses face that I've worked with, and most of the data breaches that I've handled involve failures of basics, of simple things that companies can implement training and education of their workforce for, and really go a long way towards minimizing the risk from those issues. So I hope they learn to focus on the basics first. Doesn't mean to ignore the more complicated stuff, but focus on the basics. Take care of the low-hanging fruit, and that alone, it's not that expensive, and it will minimize your risk profile quite a bit.
What's the first step that people should consider when formulating an incident response plan?
The first thing they need to do is take an honest look at their organization and assess what are their own risks, what type of data do they have, what sector are they involved in. Because until you know your own organization, it's hard to know even when you have a breach. For some organizations, a simple access to the network may not be that big of a deal, but for others, that alone might trigger a huge breach that requires a full-scale response immediately. So the first thing they need to do is honestly assess their own network, their own business, and start from there.
At what point in the process does a legal counsel team need to be involved when a data breach occurs?
Well, that's a pretty self-serving question, and I'm happy to answer that. The truth is, legal teams should be involved before there ever is a breach. I would recommend having legal counsel on board from the beginning as part of your team, because the reality is we have to be a member of the team, and we have to understand your organization and your business as well as anybody else on that team, or else we cannot adequately represent you and guide you through this. And one of the important things people need to keep in mind is the attorney-client privilege. And oftentimes I will be the person leading certain investigations, and I will retain vendors and service providers and have them work at my direction, so that there are times we may want to keep things privileged. And the other thing is, the minute you fear an incident has occurred, you've got to consult your legal counsel, and it needs to be legal counsel that is familiar with the data breach framework and with the reporting obligations, because there are far too many attorneys out there that simply don't practice in this area, and they tell clients that this is not a big deal, and the reality is it is a big deal.